Last year wasn't a fluke. This is who we are. Personalities always change year to year, and this team this year is a very adaptive team. I think a lot of people always think about this survival of the fittest, but it's really the survival of the person, organism, whatever, that can adapt the fastest. And this is a very fast adapting team. So it's been very fun to explicitly push them in a way that's like, hey, I want to see where you fail. I expect you to not succeed in this. I expect this to be uncomfortable. I want us to go into some dark and scary places. I don't believe necessarily that we should be comfortable in discomfort. I think discomfort is supposed to be uncomfortable. I think it's critical that we acknowledge how uncomfortable is, but it's how much longer can I stay in that discomfort. If I get to a point where like, oh, I'm comfortable with this discomfort, no, it's not enough. And that's kind of what I've been preaching with that men's team. I see kind of how adaptable they are and like, all right, let's go find the next scary thing.
Welcome to the Captains and Coaches Podcast. We explore the art and the science of leadership through the lens of athletics and beyond. I'm your host, Tex McQuilkin, and today we find ourselves in the Mile High City sitting down with Coach Andy Holmes, strength and conditioning coach at the University of Denver, where he's transforming how athletes understand discipline, discomfort, and development. From the Marine Corps to special operations training, from Texas football to Denver soccer, Andy brings a unique lens to athlete preparation. In this conversation, we're exploring discipline beyond the hammer with tools like delayed gratification, accepting responsibility, and the art of taking teams to the deep end to discover what they're truly capable of. This isn't just about surviving the grind. It's about choosing discomfort, finding freedom in the choice, and preparing young athletes not just for the next level of sport, but for life beyond their final whistle. Now, let's kick it out to Andy to help us raise the game. Ready, and ready.
Let's just say action.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Captains and Coaches Podcast. On location, special, double secret location, University of Denver. I'm sitting with my old pal, Andy Holmes, Coach Andy, at the University of Denver, man. This is a new spot for you.
Yeah. Well, welcome. This is a new spot in a couple of ways. We just climbed up a very tall bell tower a little bit ago. Got a pretty awesome view of the campus. But yeah, University of Denver, been here less than a year now, and it's been fantastic.
I believe it. It's a beautiful city. You got a lot of things to do outside. I know you're an outdoorsman.
In some ways. Yeah,
Well,
in some ways.
Last time we hung out, you finished up it's not a triathlon, it's a quad?
Yeah, the Mount Taylor Quad. I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico at that time. Mount Taylor is about an hour outside of Albuquerque. It was a 13-mile bike up a hill, 5-mile run up that same hill, 3-mile ski further up that hill, and then a 1-mile snowshoe to the summit. And then you get to do it all in reverse. Yeah, it's fun. It was a good time.
That's one way to describe it.
Yeah.
Well, here we are now. Speak to us about the teams you're working with,
Sure.
the opportunities that
Absolutely.
you've presented here, and then, we're about to sit down with Coach Shaw. So the opportunity, how did that present itself, and just the whole thing that is UD for you?
Totally. I think I'll start from kind of the inside and work out. So I am here working with men's and women's soccer. I'm in I think, kind of unique position where I think a lot of folks will be split kind of season to season, but I get to live soccer 24/7, 365. I'm thinking about the beautiful game. And just two really awesome programs. The men's team has been under the same coaching staff for, well over a decade now and has had a lot of success and has been a really awesome place to learn and to grow and explore. And then the women's team is in that really fun, exciting point with a awesome new coach who comes from the Division III level with a national championship under her belt and is trying to kind of take this program to the next level, and to be part of that kind of foundational culture building is a really exciting thing. Denver was not any place that I planned on coming necessarily. My wife and I were living down in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I was working in the tactical world, working with special operations students and pilots, and it was time to get out of Albuquerque. My wife's from the East Coast, we're both from the East Coast, and it was a little bit too slow paced. And she is like, I need something bigger, I need something a little faster moving, need a place that has an office that I can go into. So we were gonna come up to Denver regardless. And then this job popped up, and I kind of applied on a bit of a whim. It was one of those schools that I guess I had always had in the back of my head. I did my master's program through here, so it's something I was very
Oh, I
aware
did not
of.
know that.
Yeah. And it just kind of kept on going and kept on going, and interview after interview kept on going well until finally got a call. It's like, hey, ready to come up to University of Denver, and I was, yeah, absolutely excited, totally stoked, and it's great. Every day I get to wake up and come in here, work with some incredible athletes, incredible coaches, incredible staff, and just have a great time.
Yeah, I believe it, man. Touring the facility, it
Yeah.
was something else.
Yeah.
Love the weight room, little special place. You have sunlight.
We have a bit of sunlight on more sunny days. You came in like the 148-hour period to Denver where we don't have sunshine. But normally we get some sunshine, not just from the side, which you saw, but there are actually some skylights in the back as well. But I think personally for myself working with soccer, we are right underneath the soccer stadium.
Oh, yeah.
So there is that proximity at all times for our team that, the space itself lends an air of, knowing what we're doing all of this for. Just, point if we need to, we can just like, hey, what building are we under right now? We're under the stadium. Your field's right there. This matters.
Yeah, and your previous college stop before UD was UT, University of Texas.
Yes.
And you had that same almost immediate access from weight
Yeah.
room to field.
Yes, a little bit different weight room, a little bit different field, but I spent 2 years kind of intern, then on with a GA-ish role with Texas football there. The first 2 years of Coach Torrey Becton and Steve Sarkisian there at UT, and yeah, just a giant weight room that was about 30 seconds from the main field. So being able to utilize both of those facilities and kind of go back and forth was really awesome. But I mean, our jog here is maybe a minute to our practice fields, so we can still kind of be able to push that pace and do all the field work that we need to do and then come inside and do the work in the weight room too. It's great.
Yeah, just walking around campus here. I mean, it's lacrosse field, it's soccer field, it's, I mean, what other fields are right here next to the
Yeah, so there's the Barton lacrosse field, the main kind of lacrosse field, right? And then we've got Cyber Field, which is the soccer stadium. Just beautiful grass field, it's stunning right now. And then next to it, we have Diane Went, which is our practice field and kind of all-purpose field for a lot of other teams, not only on this campus, so our like club rugby, club lacrosse, but a lot of teams in the community. That is in many ways a community-used field. So we have little kid lacrosse things in the morning, or girls' high school soccer practices in the afternoons, or games in the afternoons, and then during the summer it is a nonstop summer camp on that field.
Well, I believe it.
So it's a cool
Yeah.
cool thing to be around, cool environment.
college athlete. That's what your job is in the summer.
Oh, yeah.
Is running camps.
Absolutely.
Easy cash.
Oh, absolutely. My first summer here was just watching my guys go out and coach little campers, and then they'd come inside absolutely exhausted from chasing around 5 and 6 year olds, and then come in, get a lift, and then run right back out to, have a good time with a couple
Yeah.
little campers. Yeah.
And let's not forget the hockey rink.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Banners.
hockey is a thing here. It's a big deal at the University of Denver, and it's really awesome to have a team that kind of sets the standard for excellence in so many ways. And you'll talk to Coach Shaw about it, and but everything kind of, that's the standard we're all kind of held to, and we hold ourselves to. The men's soccer team was able to make the Final Four this year, which was awesome. And I think it's the sort of thing, like, this isn't just a one-off for us. We very much are like, hey, this is where we should be. No, we're not some of the big powerhouse schools, Power 5 schools that have all that, football
Resources.
funding. Right, resources. But, this school is about development. It is the pitch that is made to all of our athletes coming in. It's, what I talk about as a coach, what Coach Jamie Franks, our head soccer coach, talks about. It's what Coach Sitch, our women's soccer coach, what she talks about is developing, young women and men of character, and with the understanding that you might not play as a freshman here, but that's not because you're not good. It's not because you're not necessarily ready. It's because to play in the systems that we want to play, it takes time to develop. And by the time you get to be a fifth-year senior, you've got, years of experience, but just so much growth in that time, where our juniors, seniors, fifth year seniors are incredibly dependable, that they can go and execute a complex game plan, a really kind of beautiful way to play soccer, not just kicking a ball straight down the field and chasing after it, but really some really beautiful technical soccer. And that comes from taking the time to develop. That comes from kids being mature enough to decide to redshirt, because they know it's going to be better for their development, which is unique.
Yeah,
Yeah.
certainly. And with the roster limits, have you read up on this?
Yeah, so that's been a point of discussion, with NIL buying in, not buying in, but we will be roster limited this year, which is tough for soccer. I think the limit's 28, so that kind of gives an urgency to every position on the field, and it's, I think it's kind of sad that there's going to be a dying off of walk-ons across collegiate athletics.
I know.
But I think we also know it's going to make D2 better. It's going to make D3 better, because those athletes who might be on kind of the bubble are going to go down to the next level and kind of elevate that next level. I don't know how it plays out. I just
Nobody knows.
have to try to get guys to run faster and jump higher and not break themselves and break themselves less. So that kind of stuff is like, this is what we're dealt with. This is what we'll work with.
Oh
So,
yeah, and that roster spot is even more valuable.
Yeah,
so you got to
absolutely.
keep them on the field.
Exactly.
Availability.
Yeah, there's not a lot of room for error.
No, so there's a lot more pressure on the strength and conditioning coach for sure.
Yeah, and I think strength and conditioning coach, but it's all a relationship with our athletic trainer. And again, both of our coaching staffs, we do a really good job of talking about managing player load throughout the week, managing player load throughout, the season or off season, to give the appropriate stimulus for what we're trying to get, not just from, my side of things, what I'm doing in the weight room, what we're doing with conditioning and sprinting, but really the biggest load that they're getting across the week is from practice. And being able to be prepared enough to survive practice and then thrive in practice and then get to those games. And, I think a lot of the time we see our games are, you might have a higher overall like player load or overall load, but we've touched those loads during practice. Our guys know that they can go there and go further. Our women's team especially, like whether we won or lost or draw games, like our women's team last year, I think was so fit that they would be kind of walking off a field and other teams are just squatting down.
Yeah.
They're just surviving.
Body
Which is
language.
body language, and especially we're at a mile high. We're in Denver. We're at elevation. It does have an impact, and I think
I know. We were walking up the bell tower here.
yeah, that's a tall tower. It's deceiving, but it has an impact, and I think more than just kind of the physiological impact, the kind of mentality impact of knowing that I can run you into the ground in the 75th, 80th, 85th minute.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty powerful thing.
So this leads us to our topic of discussion in many different ways. I want to explore discipline in that sense. So now, one of my key principles for discipline is delayed gratification. So this is the name of the game for a strength and conditioning coach in many different ways. One, career.
Yeah.
Two, we are working with them in the summer leading up to during an off season, months away from season.
Yeah.
So every single day we step in, we're talking about goals, we're talking about games, we're talking about this carrot at the end of the stick, far away. So it's delayed gratification before game day.
Yeah.
So we are very good at teaching lessons down the line. So now you stepped into this program. It was a new coach for the women's soccer team. It was an established coach for the men's soccer team. Those are two different experiences.
Very.
All those athletes have had previous strength and conditioning coaches.
Yes.
So now, stepping into that, how do you present these goals down the line? How do you make the connection where they start to believe you when you say, all of this is worth it for this in the end?
Right. I mean, it was a really interesting situation. So when I was hired, I was kind of hired for these two roles specifically. And Coach Shaw, who's our director of sports performance, he was still helping out with the men's team and kind of running it. He had been with Coach Frank's now for, I think they've been 11 seasons together. They really built up the program and just kind of handed me this, in many ways, this fully fledged creation. And so my role was to, one, not mess it up, but two, just kind of bring some different energy, bring some different, a different perspective to it. And I think with that team, especially last year's team, they had an idea of what they were and had an idea of their trajectory. Coach Franks often says, "Are your actions meeting your ambition?" And they had ambition. Bell Tower, yeah, had the ambition to play and win a national championship. Anytime you step on the field, the other team has a say as well, and we had a conversation in the quarterfinals, and we didn't have the better part of that conversation. But their actions were always meeting their ambition, and every single day it was kind of reinstated, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? It's for a national championship. And this spring, as I've kind of taken over fully, and Coach Shaw's been able to step back and focus on hockey kind of exclusively, then being an athletic director, the big thing that we're preaching is last year wasn't a fluke. This is who we are. Personalities always change year to year, and this team this year is a very adaptive team. I think a lot of people always think about this survival of the fittest, but it's really the survival of the person, organism, whatever, that can adapt the fastest. And this is a very fast adapting team. So it's been very fun to explicitly push them in a way that's like, hey, I want to see where you fail. I expect you to not succeed in this. I expect this to be uncomfortable. I want us to go into some dark and scary places. Because that's kind of, if you do that now during the off season, when you actually have to do it later on, you're far more comfortable with it. And I don't believe necessarily that we should be comfortable in discomfort. I think discomfort is supposed to be uncomfortable. I think it's critical that we acknowledge how uncomfortable is, but it's how much longer can I stay in that discomfort. If I get to a point where like, oh, I'm comfortable with this discomfort, no, it's not enough. We had a lot of rain yesterday. It was absolutely pouring at practice. And, I was comfortably uncomfortable. Now, if I wanted to get really uncomfortable, I would have taken off my jackets, taken off my hat, and then I would have been pretty darn uncomfortable for a while, and I'd have to sit in that. I don't suggest that for my athletes necessarily, but that's the idea, right? Being able to go into some uncomfortable places. And that's kind of what I've been preaching with that men's team. I see kind of how adaptable they are, and like, all right, let's go find the next scary thing.
Time out. Let's take a minute to talk about the Old Bull training program. If you were like me, you were bored with your training, you were extremely busy, you were beat up from years of athletics or just getting after it in the gym, and you were looking for every excuse not to train. Our solution, the Old Bull program. This is a program that eliminates all excuses, and it's fun. It's the program that I am following along. I'm writing it for myself and giving it to you, and I'm with you every step of the way, coaching your movements on the program, guiding what weights that you choose. This is a choose your own adventure, super fun and enthusiastic program. What it's based off of 6-week cycles, 2 required days each week, 2 dumbbell-based strength days each week in case you have to travel, and then a max heart rate, and then a fun day, a fun run, ruck, or local high school track sprint day. So this is what I'm following. You have freedom to move the days around to best fit your schedule. In case you have to travel, we got Sexy Fridays, getting after it with some fun bodybuilding, as well as an athletic strength day on that other dumbbell day. Mixing up the barbell movements that target achy knees, ankles, hips, lower back, so we're still able to lift heavy, but we're manipulating your body to then repair itself and restructure, so no longer lifting with pain. Through the podcast, we're offering you 1 month 50% off. Check out the link in the show notes for the Old Bull program on Old Bull and use the code PODBULL. That's Pod Bull for 1 month, 50% off. Come and join us. Now, back to the show. Ready, and great.
With the women's team, this will be, I think, our coach's third year.
Okay.
It'll be my second full season with them. And so we're very much still being like, who are we? Defining who we are as a culture. And Coach Stitch played years of professional soccer. She coached at the professional level. She won a national championship on the Division III level with the men's team at University of Chicago. She is a hard-nosed person. She wants to win. She's highly competitive. And I think what really, I think, solidified us early on is kind of the idea that we talk about is taking teams to the deep end and drowning them. And when we run our fitness, it's that we're looking for. It's like, hey, this sucks right now. You are barely able to stand up right now. You're in a very uncomfortable place, good, because the person who you're going to be going against is going to be even more uncomfortable. And that delta is where we find our advantages.
So now how are you calling out comfort? For example, we mentioned earlier when we were playing against an opponent, they're down, hands on their knees, or they're doing the old squat, trying to breathe thing during the later minutes. I want to say fourth quarter, but there is no fourth quarter in soccer.
Yeah, late minutes. I mean, I think it starts a lot with that posture. Like whenever we're doing our conditioning, the natural reaction of everyone is you finish your run. We run 300s with the women's team. That's one of our big tests. And they get back after that first one, and people are, starting to bend over, hands overhead. And my big thing is you can't lean on yourself. You can lean on a teammate. You can go up to a teammate and lean on them. You can stay up that way. And that's something that, I think I saw for the first time at University of Texas. That was a big thing that Coach Beck was on. Like he understood that people were exhausted, people were breathing hard, but just making that next decision to go towards a teammate when you're feeling that kind of point of vulnerability, it's making those little connection points. I think contact is really important in those moments, and to think about someone else other than yourself. That's one of the things with this new group of captains that I try to hit on is like, hey, when you're tired, go towards the people who look more tired than you are. Focus on them first. And one, it'll help them out, and two, it'll help you out because you won't be thinking about how tired you are. But I think that's kind of a big point, and then just effort. We do a drill where it's like running out to 3 different cones, and I'm calling which order we're going to the cones. I'm calling, are we touching right foot, right hand, left hand? It's intended to fail, especially when you're tired. People are going to get frustrated, and I'm going to say, hey, this so-and-so did this wrong, right? And there's the natural group mentality to kind of gang up on that person. And but to combat that, it's, watching the team leaders naturally be like, pull it together, pull the team together, kind of bridle everyone up.
And you're helping guide their reaction. And sometimes this is what I love about strength coach. You're not always playing the same card. Right. Sometimes you can be the jerk ref that they did everything correct, but you made the bad quote unquote call. Yeah. And you can see how they react, and you're still there to help shape their reaction.
Totally. And I was thinking about this today, and we something had been said during practice. We had men's practice earlier today. And there's this great quote from Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, and I'm going to butcher the actual quote, but the idea, like thinking about the difference between action and reaction, and the deliberateness of action and the kind of subconsciousness of reaction, the very deeply human choice to act and the kind of animalistic reaction. And being able to, I think, sit in that discomfort and then take an action from that as next best action. Soccer's a great game because there are all these opportunities throughout a game to mess up. A bad touch on a ball, making a bad pass, but in each of those moments, you right away can make a next good action.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I try to hit on a lot and try to use my voice in practice is watching body language in games like, hey, next thing.
I love it. One of the other big principles within discipline that I'm leaning into is the acceptance of responsibility. So within athletics, it's amazing because you get that next play mentality, right? If I'm a cornerback, I have to live in that next play. If I'm
Yep.
a baseball player, it's the next pitch
Yep.
on either side of the ball. So now, with keeping that in mind and what we were just discussing there, how are you stepping in to help the leaders lead and shape those reactions versus just the coach
Yeah.
shaping the reactions?
Yeah, so I think it's a little bit different with both teams.
As it should be.
Yeah, the men's team, their leaders have kind of been very much groomed for the last couple of years. They have a leadership kind of council that
Okay.
involves players from all grades who are kind of seen by their peers as folks who are leaders on the team. And we have freshmen in that group who we know are eventually going to wear a C on the sleeve. Like, it's just like, this is, whether they are the best player on the field or not, they're one of the best leaders we have. And so with that group, it's a lot more nudging and kind of like quiet conversations. And honestly, just kind of highlighting when I think someone did like the right thing more than being like, that might not have been the way to go about that. Because I think they do a really good job. I think Coach Franks, again, like, has done a really incredible job developing, some really awesome young men. I think I've been really lucky to work with the women's team, whose captains I think are a little less experienced. I think they are natural leaders.
Yeah.
Right, and do a really good job of kind of complementing each other. There's one kind of more fiery leader. There's the leader who really has like the pulse on the team, and then there's a leader who's really the organized one who can kind of tie a lot of things together. And honestly, it's a lot been discussing of like, hey, what are the actual kind of structural strategies of like, you three need to meet and talk about something. Like, how do you do that? Conversations with them would be about like, hey, during a conditioning session, if you need to stop everything and grab people and huddle them up, go ahead and do that. And then, or after a practice, it'll be kind of a rough practice. We'll come inside and, one of them will drift over and be like, man, that was tough. I was like, when did you recognize that? And be like, I saw it here. It's like, hey, we got to get better at just being able to call that out. Like, that's why coaches and your peers kind of wanted you to lead, is to be able to do that. And leading's really hard.
Oh, yeah.
Leading your peers especially is extremely hard.
Well, I mean, that's the whole institution that I'm aiming to help,
Yeah.
is that team captain, because it isn't easy.
Yeah.
So they're your best friends, they're your teammates, and now you're, for lack of a better term, like one step above them.
Yeah.
So you have to lead down, you got to lead up, you got to lead side to side to your other team captains.
Yeah, and I think especially it's the way that we're all socialized. It is very easy for the guys to have really sharp language at each other. Hey, I need you to do this now. It doesn't matter the way they say that. It is, very sharp. And it's either like bucked up against, in which case, someone is just going to have to pull rank or pull experience, I think my idea is more important than your idea. And it's just kind of very hierarchical structure. As collaborative as this team is, that still kind of exists, I think, more in men's sports. I think the women's teams that I've worked with are naturally more collaborative. They want to find consensus and they want to move in directions together, which I think is a lot more complicated. Just kind of yelling at someone and berating someone isn't going to work. And not to be said that they shouldn't be able to yell and accept that, but it's finding that middle ground of, hey, what I'm saying is really important. I need you to do this, but educating each other that, hey, this doesn't mean that I feel any way about you. This doesn't mean that you're a bad person. This doesn't mean anything like that. And it's just unfortunately, a way that, at least in this country, men and women are socialized very differently. And that frustration and anger and passion, honestly, are acceptable in one way, in different forms of expression coming from men, and it's not accepted that same way for women. You see it in the corporate side of the world, you see it in academia, you see it certainly in sports.
And that's what's interesting, because in sports, both of those different ways that it's expressed are accepted, and then in the workforce, both men and women are then going to work together.
Absolutely.
So then what changes?
Yeah, I mean, I think I am incredibly lucky that I have a wife who is a very impressive kind of corporate employee and is in a leadership role. And the way that is acceptable for her to talk to peers up and down is different from how her male counterparts are accepted to talk up and down. What a guy would be being assertive or being demanding or having high standards, she'd be complaining or, you know, bitching at someone, right? And it is seen in a negative light. If you take the same words and put them coming from her versus him, they're received very differently. And unfortunately, I think it's the same in sports sometimes. And I don't necessarily know if there's a right or wrong way to communicate. I think I tend to be kind of utilitarian in the sense of, hey, what works in that moment, it was probably the right way or thing to say. But it's definitely something, I am becoming more aware of and paying more attention to. Because communication, on field is incredibly critical.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For both the men and women. So how I'm thinking about it is progressing and starting lead athletes to self-awareness, creating just the mental, the emotional, the physical state. That's why I love the warm-up. It's my
Yeah.
opportunity for self-check-ins. I'm not just, clicking a score on an app.
Yeah.
I'm actually checking in with the body, with the
Yep.
mind, and moving
Yep.
through there. And I, as a coach, can help lead that and remind them to
Yeah.
check in. I can see how they're moving, and then I'm not telling them how they're feeling. I'm
Yeah.
asking them how they're feeling and seeing if
Yeah.
it's connected to my vision. So from self-awareness, it gets into social awareness, and this is where I lean into captains to start reading the team and see if they see what I see.
Yeah.
And then now, like you mentioned earlier with one of your female athletes where you asked them, hey, when did this get hard?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a great time. Now we step in and then say anything.
Yeah.
Or potentially, hey, try this next time in a leadership position.
Yeah.
So the self-awareness, social awareness, and then we get into, and we got bells going off. This is connecting to accepting responsibility.
Ability. Yeah.
I want to turn that into two words: response space ability.
Yeah.
So when things do go awry or things go well,
Right.
how are we responding?
Yeah, I think success can be just as difficult, if not more difficult for a lot of people. Is how to now, once you've succeeded, like, how do I save this precious thing? How do I keep it safe? And when a lot of times it's the freedom to fail that brought us to that success in the first place. Yeah.
And then even thinking to the workforce, whether we're working with a men's or a women's team, if we're just creating that awareness in your responsibility, whether you're have a jerk boss or things are outside of your control within the corporate
Yeah.
space or whatever,
Yeah.
you still, and going back to Viktor Frankl quote, there's a space
Between action and reaction.
action and reaction.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think this is the reason both of us love sports to an extent.
yeah.
Is how much kind of cultural capital it creates, how many lessons and abilities and connections it gives us later down in life. It's not just kind of I think the lessons of, hey, getting up early, working hard, putting in your best effort, how to be collaborative, how to work with a team. I think that sports teaches all of those things. And then they're kind of the life lessons that we might get from a good coach, a good mentor, a good captain who we've had. And then I think just kind of the ability to speak a language of competition.
Explain.
Just the understanding, I mean, there is the explicit language of competition in sports that's everywhere in just our language. Who's quarterbacking this project? All right, folks, we're fourth and long in this ideal. He really bricked that assignment, right? Like it's, if you think about our language, and especially kind of our professional language, sports is everywhere. And so if you grow up without sports, you are hamstrung from kind of understanding that implicit, like kind of side language or slang vernacular when you kind of get to that point. And then just kind of the connection piece of if you played a sport and someone else played a sport in whatever office is, that's an instant point of connection. You can share not just that common language of sport, but you can get deeper into it. And just kind of seeing and being able to like just touch on these moments, being like, hey, this moment here, this tough moment here, or that little bit of communication that you did, or this frustration, like learn this now because you're going to see this again.
Oh, yeah.
And again, like I think this school does a really great job of both expecting their athletes to potentially go play at the next level, which they do, which is really exciting, but also understanding that that next level is just one step in what is ultimately going to be a really successful life.
Yeah. And that big picture thinking is
Yeah.
big reason for me even taking the trip out to connect with you and your team. So now that helps me introduce the next principle here. It's almost like we planned this.
Yeah, something like that.
In line with
Loosely.
discipline, dedication to reality. So all the coaches, they anticipate, one, winning at this level, two, their athletes are going to play at a next level, and three, they also know that next level ends.
Yeah.
And so there is this sense of reality and expectation I feel I'm getting from the messages from the coaches you're working with that we are preparing for
Yeah.
a next step. And it's not just leaving you out to dry
Right.
if that next level
Right.
doesn't work out.
Yeah, I think one of the really, and this again is why I think sports are important because you have the shared community naturally. What's really hard about high level athletics is it becomes so important that it becomes a sense of identity. That I'm a baseball player, I'm a lacrosse player, I am a swimmer, I'm a golfer. Some people carry that on a while longer. But
Yeah, I was
I'm
going to say
a
there's
soccer player.
two types of people in this world,
Yeah.
golfers and people that play golf.
That's fair enough. Well, and so here's kind of the thing. I used to have this discussion a lot with our player of athletic development at Texas because this is a big thing, especially coming from a program, where everything is so focused on you playing football that we had a lot of football players who then graduated and didn't quite know what to do. And I had had some experience with this. I got out of the Marine Corps and I saw myself as a Marine Corps officer and I did not know what to do. I didn't know what I was. And so, many hours of therapy and tears and working on myself and learning and unlearning and whatnot later. It's very much more like, again, that action. I choose to coach. That's what I do. It's not who I am. And again, we've kind of talked about these ways to kind of play free. If you are choosing every day to be a soccer player, if you're choosing every day to be great, that it's an active process, not I am great, so I have to be great. I am a winner, so I have to win, but I'm choosing to win. I'm choosing to succeed. I'm choosing to play soccer. I think there's a freedom in that. And then beyond that, when those cleats do get hung up, you're going to choose to do the next thing. And I think that's a really, really hard thing. I don't know if when I was 22, playing D3 lax, if someone had told me that, how I would have reacted. But that's kind of, part of the fun of the job.
Would you just do what I do and never stop coaching?
Yeah, well, I went down a couple of different, streets and forays before I got back to this. But yeah, I think just we keep coming back to it, is the active choice to do something. And like we talked about the discomfort, it's not being comfortable in discomfort, it is choosing intentionally to be uncomfortable and to sit in that discomfort. It is actively choosing to run hard, not because it's what you have to do, but it's like, no, I'm going to do that because I want to. And I think that little change of phrasing, that little change of mindset can be really freeing for some folks.
A big time on many different levels. And what I pair with this discipline principle, level set on skill set.
Yeah.
So you have to have an accurate portrayal of what your talent is, the ceiling of your potential, and where you currently are. And imagine with I know you don't partake in this, but the recruiting process for the sport coaches, they want kids that are, this is the balance, like level enough to understand that they're capable of coming here, but know that they have a ceiling to hit, versus recruiting the kid that believes they're all everything.
Yeah.
And then they're less likely to listen to coaches because coach doesn't know.
Yeah, and again, I think that's one of the things that's really different here, and just kind of how we look at development. You know,
So now my question to tailor into strength and conditioning, like what are your tests that you put the team through? You mentioned 300s.
sure,
So this is where our metrics can come into play.
right?
Because we know the eye in the sky doesn't line with film, but at the same time, like if you didn't do the work physically,
show.
it's going to show in our test.
Timeout. Coach, are you banging your head against the wall trying to motivate athletes who seem mentally soft? You're yelling, they're shutting down. You're punishing, they're checking out. Sound familiar? Here's the thing, the game has changed, but most of the coaching education hasn't caught up yet. They're locked in on teaching programming and not people-ing. In my new course, Why They're Not Listening, Coaching Today's Athlete, you'll learn how to connect with your team and transform disconnected players into captains who perform under pressure. Stop fighting your athletes and start developing them. Go to listen.captainsandcoaches.com to enroll. That's listen.captainsandcoaches.com. Transform your coaching today. Now, back to the show. Ready, and break.
I think there's tests and there's testing. We do regular testing, right? Just kind of to get a pinpoint idea, and then trends for, how we are progressing. And that's, our vol testing, our counter movement jump type stuff, just recording our sets, reps, weights, loads. That kind of gives us an idea of how we're progressing. And then there's our kind of standard testing, or standard tests. For women's soccer, the 300 is kind of our big one.
So
that's
is it a repeat or is it one?
It's three iterations. So when I got here last year, it was a 63-second standard, 50 yards down, 50 yards back, 3 times, just the standard. Yep, 1 minute rest, go again, 1 minute rest, go again. We bumped that down this spring to 61 seconds.
Okay.
And we are taking it now to 60 seconds flat going into next season, and it's a do not pass, do not play expectation. Exciting, fun. Take them to the deep end and drown them. That's who we want to be. And then for the men's team, we typically do the yo-yo intermittent beep test. Great, just very well proven test to kind of see where our kind of aerobic ability is. And then again, that later end, those last couple of reps are how uncomfortable are you willing to get? And my kind of conversation with the guys this year was, whether you think you're going to make the next rep or not, I need you to start it. That's got to be our mentality. If you step up to the line and fall on your face because you're so tired, that's fine. I just need you to get back to the line to try that next rep. Don't bail out finishing a rep and ending it there in the kind of recovery space. Get back to the line. And this year we improved pretty decently, kind of a 6-point bump from on our team average. So that's like, if you know the beep test, it's different standards, 18.1 to 18.8, for example. So I think we went from like a 19.7 average last year to a 20.5. So I think a lot of that is guys being willing to do some extra work and get really, really uncomfortable. And then one test that I did with the guys earlier in the year was a unknown time, unknown distance.
I need details.
So, So set up a course on our field that I knew was a quarter of a mile is 2.48. Yeah, it was pretty darn close, quarter of a mile. And it had them kind of weaving. So there weren't the typical straight lines, there weren't the typical kind of markers and landmarks that you might expect if you're running to kind of gauge where we're going. And I was keeping track of which station they got to kind of get an idea of how far they had traveled. The cue was you have between 6 and 16 minutes, go as far as you can. When you hear the whistle, you start. When you hear the second whistle, you stop. Whistle. And you saw a lot of different approaches. But I think the predominant one was in conversations with guys after was I had more to give.
Ooh.
I could have pushed harder.
And
And the guys who did really, really well on that test were just like, screw it. If he dies, he dies. We're just, whether I have to be dragged off this field, I'm going to go as far and as fast as I can for as long as I can.
and what was the huddle like afterwards? Where they were expressing this great on them for owning up to both ends of the spectrum. Then how did you lead that group?
Yeah, so it was just kind of a real honest conversation. It's like we see, looking at the scores, it's like we've got 3 tiers here. We've got the guys who are clearly, pushing themselves, doing the work, and it's like doing the extra work. Look at who this group of folks are. What are the other things they're doing? They're the ones who are really good about maintaining our habits. Like they're kind of doing the right things. This middle group has room to improve, but they're doing some things right, and we have other areas to grow. And then this bottom group, all right, we need to take a look at ourselves and see how dedicated are we to what we're doing, and how can we clean up kind of the habits, the easy buckets, making sure that we're eating right, we're sleeping right, we're hydrated, all that stuff, that we're taking care of all of our schoolwork so we're not worrying about that while we're running, that we're doing all the work that we're prescribed to do, right? And then what do we need to add on top of that? Where do we need to grow, whether that's spending more time on those air bikes downstairs that we talked about, they get lots of love, or whether that's actually spending some time outside running or on the spin bike. Just where can we put in some extra effort to try and close these gaps? And it was just kind of said, hey, if you're in that top group, keep running, get out further, be further ahead.
Yeah.
Don't wait for people to catch up. Keep pushing. Everyone else got to push harder to catch up.
Yeah. Never satisfied.
Yeah.
And the championship mentality, like it's even harder to go back to back. So that's in the back of my mind.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's there. And I think that for a couple of people was a bit of this is a team that I think has gotten really good at doing what they know how to do. And I think one of the things that I sometimes think a little differently from different angles and different lenses, and finding those kind of unique forms of discomfort. This is something that I hadn't done before. They're used to knowing you have to run this far, this fast. And this was it's on you. How much do you want it?
Yeah.
And that's a scary thing, to have that success or failure be purely on you, to own that 100%. No ref to blame, no bad surfaces to blame, no opponents to blame. No, this is all me.
Yeah. Which ultimately leads me to my last principle here, which is going to be balance. To where it is on you.
Yeah.
You show up to class. Yep. Some people, they need that external job outside of sport and school to maintain the lifestyle necessary.
Totally.
The extra work that they know they need done.
Yeah.
So it's like a true work-life balance, and ultimately it's on them. They can't blame coach. They can't blame the strength and conditioning coach. They can't blame anybody.
Yeah.
Is the ultimate, their performance is decided in this off season to put them in a position to succeed. So this is why I love strength and conditioning coaching so much, is because we get them year round. Sport coaches are limited through rules on their access to their athletes, but we get to help them.
Yeah.
And sometimes they come to us with problems where they don't want to bring it up to sport coach.
Yep.
Because they're one reason or another, right? So we'll just keep it vague within that respect. So now I call it between the whistles. Speak to us on how you mentor the the men and women of these teams just between the whistle, helping them find their work life, sport
Yeah.
life balance?
I think, again, this is not even here a full year. So I'm still developing a lot of relationships, but I think I'm someone who I try to lead with earnestness and curiosity. I'm, I think I know pretty well that I don't know a lot of things. And I'm pretty quick to own up to that. And especially, soccer, I haven't played consistently since I was, 8 years old. So this is a lot of learning. And I think in a lot of ways, I start my relationship with that. It's like, hey, teach me about this sport that you love so much. And I think part of that curiosity is I want to know as much as possible about the sport. I started trying to watch, a game a week at
I
least.
thought you were going to say Ted Lasso.
Well, Ted Lasso had already binged multiple times. Great show. Barbecue sauce. No, very well. But actually spending time like watching at all levels, whether it's MLS, whether Premier League, La Liga, just trying to watch as much like good soccer as possible to try and like figure out the rhythms. Because there are different rhythms and a musicality to like a well-played game where you can kind of feel the momentum going in certain ways. You can kind of see where things are going to happen before they happen. And it's the sort of thing that, talking with our coaching staff, they can just pause a frame and like tell you an entire story. It's like watching like Magnus Carlsen, like you just drop a chess set in front of him and he can tell you everything that's going to happen. You kind of pause film for them and they're like, oh yeah, this is what's going on here. This is why this is happening. This is, the center back's playing too close here. So this is where the winger should be exploiting.
Speaking French to me right now, but
Yeah, parlez-vous. But being able to like have those conversations and try to understand more and learn more, I think builds a sense of like, hey, I care not just about my job and making you, more resilient, trying to get you a little bit faster, trying to get you jump maybe a little bit higher, trying to, for some of these guys, put on a little bit of size to be a little more confident. For the women's team, our big goal this year is just get stronger, right? But also like, I care about the sport that you care about. I care about how you are going to go play this game. And I think that building kind of that, again, like coming to the language, being able to speak that language with them builds a bit of a rapport. And then I think just trying to be as authentic as possible whenever possible. Coaching is a lot like acting a lot of times, I think.
okay.
We are commanding a space. There's all these athletes. We have these scripts that, whether we're improvising or not, reading like what we're going to be doing today, talking through these movements that we've discussed multiple times. It is a bit of like, how can I hold the attention? How can I get across the message that I'm trying to get? How can I make sure that we are getting things and make sure that my voice is heard in the way that it needs to be heard? And kind of once that's done, I try to step back. And then when I get into coaching, like individually, the touch points, trying to make a touch point with every single of my athletes throughout, a lift or a day. And, not just checking in on them to kind of say like, hey, what's going on? What's up? But then be like, hey, what are we thinking about this movement? I love asking kind of a question after a movement. We played a lot around with velocity-based training this spring, a lot of clean pulls and whatnot with a hex bar. And there's great feedback from that device showing how fast you've gone. But more than that, kind of the question is like, all right, how'd that feel?
Right.
And having athletes have to voice and kind of put to words sensations that they might not have had to discuss before is always really fun, always really interesting, and you get a lot out of that. One of the great things about soccer players that I've absolutely come to love is how knowledgeable they are of their own bodies. They are super, super aware, especially their feet, legs, like hips. Like they are super, super in tune with how everything feels and can speak pretty confidently and fluently to how things feel. Now, they don't necessarily know why they feel that way. They don't know what to do about it, but that's a great starting point. And we can like then have little manipulations like, hey, try widening out your stance a little bit. Hey, try narrowing your stance a little bit. Hey, see how your hips kind of like sliding back. Let's try to pull that belt buckle up, get into a different kind of a position here. and then try it again. How did that feel? Okay, better, worse, same. Okay, let's try it again, and then we can kind of go things from there.
Yeah.
But I think trusting them in many ways to be the leaders of their own bodies, I think is really, really important. Whether that's, failing and figuring out what failing feels like, or succeeding and figuring out what that feels like. You know, being like, hey, your body. I know these movements. I know, what the general good right looks like, but there are going to be some
Yeah, we're all
differences for each of you. Whenever I teach the squat, I say squatting is like a signature. It's very personal, and so we're going to figure out, well, it looks good for my, 6'4" center back. It's going to look very different for my, 5'5", 6 or 8. Like,
yeah.
and being okay with both of those, and having them, moreover, being okay with how different they are from each other.
Yeah. And then ultimately, we're creating self-awareness, leads to self-management, and then responsible decision-making is our ultimate end goal.
Yeah.
Within sports, we're making the
Yeah.
good decisions in the weight room, get a feel for it, right weight, good decisions in the practice field, create opportunities for yourself for the game, making good decisions, shaping good decisions. That's what coaches are for. And then they go off
Then they go off into the world. Yeah.
and maintain responsible decision-making.
Hopefully, that's the hope, isn't it?
That is what we can do.
Yeah.
Well, Andy, thanks for sitting down with me and
Yeah.
exploring this conversation. I always valued the way you think. And
Appreciate
converse.
that. It's sometimes different, and we didn't even go down the other side of discipline, but that's maybe for another time.
Well, we got plenty of hang time today, so then
Yeah.
we'll explore that at dinner. Yeah, I like this side of discipline versus framing it as the negative, of discipline as putting the hammer down.
But see, and we'll give a taste of it. They're all connected. There's the hammer, and then there's kind of the subtle knife. Both have an impact, right? You might feel the hammer more, but it's some of those the subtle discipline, right? It's not to say that it's bad, but it can be dangerous, right?
Well, I will quote Mission Impossible 6, maybe. Some
Okay,
people get a hammer, some people get a scalpel.
Yeah,
I'm Tom Cruise in this scenario.
there you go. Hammer away.
No, he's the scalpel.
Oh, he's the scalpel.
Yes.
Okay, I haven't seen 6.
Oh my God. Well, 8's coming out, so you got to get in line.
Gotta catch up. Jeez.
Yes, well, that is that you're undisciplined when it comes to Tom Cruise films. But thank you for joining me for Captains and Coaches podcast.
Hey, thank you very much.
All right, scene. All right. Nearing 2, so we got a